What is going on, you all? Today we're talking about the best PC for PCVR. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Now, I'm completely excited for this video today because best is a lot of, it's subjective, right? It's not objective. So you got to kind of just think about like, okay, what is the best in obviously budget, performance, overall usage, and just being able to have that capability to make it a rig to stream with it. We got to get all of these counterparts to see what exactly is the best PC for PCVR. And so let's go ahead and dive into the three pinnacles, the three best games that are still popular to this day with PCVR. And we're gonna start from like the lowest magnitude all the way to the highest magnitude today. So a great video. And so if you're interested in more videos like this, hit us up with a thumbs up, subscribe, as it always means the world. Let's check it out. Number one for the game, Phasmophobia. Now, Phasmophobia is one of my favorites. It's just a great game. If you want to play PCVR, it's one of the cleanest looking games if you have the essential setup for this. Let's go ahead and look down to it because Phasmophobia would be number one on this list. Kind of more of an entry level type PCVR game as the graphics are not too intense, but it's just enough. So let's go ahead and let's look at these specs. The CPU, it's either showing a i5 4590 or a Ryzen 5 2600 for the CPU. Now let's look at a GPU. The GPU is gonna be a GTX 970 and also an R9 390 by AMD. So giving us both aspects is great, and this right here is minimum. Now here's a huge note that Phasmophobia does do for us. Now it says minimum specs are for VR, lower specs may work for non-VR. I love that so much. They're nicer. They're letting you know like, hey, if you want to play at least not VR, but today's video is obviously about VR, so these are the minimum. Now let's see what they want for the actual recommended. So it says an i5 10600 and then a Ryzen 5 3600. Okay, now we're getting up there, right? We're getting up there. They want for GPU a RTX 2060 and an RX 5700. Still not too expensive. Now both of them both require 8GB RAM, but I would never do that in virtual reality. We always want to go with a 16GB or more RAM just for the essence of performance alone. This is a fan favorite. We got Boneworks right here going down. Boneworks, of course, with the Bone Lab being released on a standalone Quest 2, you obviously don't need a PC at all for that, but this is strictly for PCVR. So we're looking at Boneworks, which is another anticipated game that's still popular. Minimal, they want at least a quad core minimum. They want a quad core minimum on your processor, the CPU. Graphics, they're looking for a GTX 1060, 970 for Rift, an original Vive at 90 hertz and Rift S at 80 hertz. So there's a lot of complications in here, right? So we always have to shake that up and see what they're doing. Now you always want to look at that additional note. CPU performance required for physics calculations. These minimum specs are based on Rift, an original Vive, and Rift S only. So those are kind of, looks complicated right here, right? And of course it says on your memory is 8GB, but as always, utilize a 16 or higher. It's always best to do that. Let's see their recommended now. i7 7700K or greater with 16GB RAM. So now Boneworks does recommend the 16GB. So Phasmophobia didn't really do that. Now we know we're in a mid-tier, intermediate type, respectable PCVR game. 16GB RAM is what they're recommending, and GPU is a 1080 GTX 1080 26 Super or greater for Rift to give you that full-on. Half-Life Alyx, still very popular. This game is the definition of what PCVR is, especially for the OG PCVR users. For this game, it looks at right here, it says the i5 7500, Ryzen 5 1600, and of course the memory, they're putting 12GB RAM. I would still always recommend a 16GB RAM. Right here it does say a GTX 1060 or an RX 580 with 6GB VRAM, and of course the support is Steam VR. Now here's the reason why I would actually put this a little bit more advanced than Boneworks. Now, Boneworks does have that physics notion, but I've done an experience that Boneworks can perform on lower end graphics cards versus Half-Life Alyx. Half-Life Alyx tends to have a lot more trouble, I guess because it provides more of that adventure, open world type atmosphere, and it really can skip your frames, really going in from dark to the aesthetics can get it really up and down. While Boneworks kind of can stay complacent in terms of themes for a while. Now it does stutter every once in a while if you're using more of a minimal graphics card, but Half-Life Alyx I think would still be more of the advance in terms of overall knocking it out the park when you do get it the right way. Coming to conclusion now, when it comes to PCVR, especially those that are interested in PCVR, these questions can get very confusing. So I'm excited to really share to you what I would think, something that can perform on all three and something that I did, especially if you're looking to save money, especially if you're looking for overall performance and respectable. So in my opinion, if I'm going with the best PC for PCVR, this is gonna, you have to knock out a lot of contemplations, a lot of situations. So for me, it's how much money can I save, what's the most respectable performance I can get with saving that kind of money, and how long, the longevity of these cards. Based on what I read with at least these 3 games, which are fairly respectable for sure, especially if you know your virtual reality in gaming and be able to stream and be able to create content. And then on top of that, if you get yourself 16GB RAM, but I would definitely follow along that i5 4590 and upward. The Ryzen 5 2600, Ryzen 5 3700 is really good too. The Ryzen 7, like as long as you're going within that route, I think that you're gonna be fine. So based on experience alone, if I gave you my older setup when I didn't have as much money, but I still got the best respectable performance I could get, where I could run green screen, mixed reality, Boneworks, Half-Life Alyx, Phasmophobia, which I still run Phasmophobia to this day, I would have to say I'm going with a Ryzen 7 3700X and also either a 1660 Super or a 6600 XT, which means NVIDIA or AMD depending. AMD is usually a little bit more affordable, not the best at streaming. NVIDIA is always better at streaming. They have a better encoding process, but that would be that. And you can find those in pre-built PCs that are very affordable. So in my opinion, I think with that, along with 16GB RAM, you're definitely on your way to greatness, especially with virtual reality and passing that entry level, but also giving yourself comfort so you can have the best experience possible, man. So I appreciate y'all so much. If you want any more help or any more questions, or if you have something that's far more budget and you have proof on screen of what you're utilizing, leave in the comment section below, man. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one, man. Peace.